Aloha, welcome to Faith in Politics, where we aim to discuss politics through the lens of faith, both here in Hawaii and around the world. I'm Pete Klaproth, filling in for Brett in Scarborough. In this program, Leo Rodas interviews local resident Carol Kamai, who has created What Impact, a grassroots political movement. We'll find out why, especially with Hawaii's primary election around the corner. Billy Crone, pastor of Sunrise Bible Church in Las Vegas, shares his story, as well as the current status of the church today, and what it means to be salt and light as we engage in our culture. But first, we begin our program with part 2 of a discussion with Ann Shigita Ko of 40 Days for Life, Karen Stengel from North Shore Christian Fellowship, and Waxer Tipton from One Love Ministries, as they discuss the importance of voting in light of the polarizing topic of abortion. Here is part 2 of their conversation.
Check out this statistic I came across. This is crazy. 50 states, right? Out of the 50 states that we have, Governor Ige has the second lowest approval rating. Okay? Yep, out of the 50, it's the second lowest approval rating. But believe it or not, at the same time, Hawaii has the third lowest voter turnout. I think, it's 57.5%. So less than half, or just about half, even show up to vote. And I think that number obviously is a little high. I really do. Mm-hmm. So, do you think there is a correlation that's clear that voting matters? Here we have the lowest, and yet we have the lowest turnout, and yet the lowest approval. What's going on here? How come it's so kapakahi? What do you think about those numbers?
Well, I think that people in Hawaii are just working really hard. So many people work 2 and 3 jobs just to make ends meet, and so I think they don't have time. They're trying to get their kids to school and to their soccer practice. I think that's part of it. I think there might be some apathy. I'm just guessing. You know, if I go vote, is there really going to be change?
Yeah.
You know,
I think
it
that's
is, and
the longest one.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest.
Yeah.
At least you think that there's no power in your vote.
Right.
But if you don't vote, then you have just silenced your voice.
100%.
You know, if you want to make a difference in what's going on in your state, it's like you have to go out and vote, because your voting is what you can vote in for people that share your beliefs and values.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And even if they don't share beliefs and values, you guys, I will tell you, I mean, it just keeps coming up again and again for me. Democrats for life, or Democrats for local people. You guys, it's not a party thing.
Right.
I reached out to a senator recently, and she really reached back out to me. And I thought, wow, she cares. She cares about the local people.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And she tabled a bill that was going through that I just thought was very unreasonable. I said, why does it have to be so unreasonable? You know? So I think picking up the phone or going to see these people, these candidates, and actually asking them, what do you think about Roe versus Wade? What do you think about abortion to 9 months of pregnancy? Do you think it's right that kids, don't need permission to go get an abortion? You know, in other states, they need, a minor needs permission.
Yep.
Some states actually require someone to think about their abortion 24 hours before they actually get one. And that could be the chance where they tell someone they love and realize it's not that big fear factor. It's okay, I can choose and I can have it all.
So that. Good. But what you guys are talking about, though, is actually voting for the candidate. Let me say what I mean by that. What I see in Hawaii has been legacy voting.
Yeah.
It's legacy voting. My grandma and grandpa, when they moved here long time, they voted Democrat, so we vote Democrat, and so I vote Democrat, and so I'm just going to vote that way. And yet, so they look at the ballot and they just look for the letter D or R, rather than, as you said, we're so busy doing all these things that to know who the candidates are. And then the worst part is that you send out these surveys to them, and half of them don't even answer anyways, the surveys, which I think is irresponsible. So that's even one of the first telltales that I tell people. But I really think we, as the Ohana in Hawaii, really need to encourage people to look at the candidates, especially this year. Vote for the person, not the party. And that's the thing. What does this person believe and stand for? And then, like you said, knowing these issues.
Yeah.
I think that
and
is
bring it up
crucial.
to them, even if they're not a Republican. You can go
Absolutely.
right up to a Democrat at any of these breakfasts or. Honestly, we need a voter's guide. If we had a voter's guide, that would be so helpful.
Well, we do have it, but they don't respond to it.
I never knew that.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying is we have it here. And so Hawaii Family Forum every single year would put these things out, but The majority, and again, like you said, not every Republican is even pro-life. So that's why you got to judge the person and not the party.
I can just hear my husband saying, do your research and vote for biblical values,
exactly.
not personality. I mean, you might not like the personality of the person, but they have biblical values that you can agree with, and so vote. But yet, voting is very important.
So, Pastor Waxer, what issues should the faith community be concerned about?
All of them.
Love it.
But let me tell you this. This is going to sound crazy, but abortion sets the tone for everything else.
Yes, I believe
It does. It sets. If you have an understanding, a biblical understanding of that, then the moral fiber behind that, because of all the different things that people say on the arguments about abortion, for, pro, con, whatever it may be, when you understand that, then that actually becomes a springboard. It's a telltale of the heart. That I care about the moral reasons, and then I know and recognize that there are people other than myself who have more power on that decision, and that's those in office. Right. I mean, if there's anything the Trump administration showed was the power of what 4 years could do in putting in lawmakers, right? That's why we have the Roe versus Wade turned. Yes. So he had just a one sit, and look at the massive change that was there. So to me, I think that's so important, is that, but we definitely, the moral issues, what matters to God, that is the key. I mean, I unfortunately, I hear Christians getting so upset about so many of the other peripheral things, even during COVID, upset about, not being able to walk through the parks and things like that, that were very much, an overreach for sure. But that's not the kind of stuff that I think in the house of God we need to be most moved by. We need to be moved by what moves God, and the sin, and then learning how to respond to that. I don't know if this is helpful for you guys, but one of the things that because I used to do a lot of debates in the universities and such, and on all kinds of subjects, and I would stand in the quad and let them just fire at me, and when they would say stuff, well, what about abortion and this and my right and all these things, and I would say to them, okay, well, let's just sum up this. Let me sum up from what I have heard, the three main arguments that everyone has given that is pro-life, is that first of all, we want to say this, is that it's my body. Okay, so it's my body, so what I do with it, it's mine, so I can do what I want. Secondly, they would say that it's not really even a child. That was the argument quite a bit a long time ago. It's not really a child yet, okay? So it is, my freedom to do so. And then there's, of course, the economic argument, right? I can't afford to have the child, and so I would share that with them, and I'd say, well, okay, so basically that you're saying is that, you can do as you feel you have the right to, and secondly, it's not really a child, and third, economically, we couldn't do it without it. I have to get the abortion because I can't afford another child in my family.
All lies.
Yep.
Yeah.
But then I look the person right in the eye and I say, do you realize that's the same three arguments the North gave to the South on why, the South gave to the North why they had slaves? Yeah. It's my plantation, and wow. They're not really human beings anyways, but can't afford not to. And it's the exact same argument. And as we see how the lie had to work its way through, and that's the same, because now in the same way that we understand that all individuals are created by God, regardless of the color, and as you said earlier, now technology is showing that it's truly a baby. Yes. I mean, one of those TV things at the very end of its program, they have like a little baby in the fetus. You ever notice that? You see that on TV? It's like one of the end of the program things.
Yeah, it's their company logo.
Yeah, their company logo. And I was like, right on that. So that was pretty cool.
I hope that brings people awareness.
Yeah.
I agree with you, Pastor Waxer. I really do. It is the heart of the church. Because when a woman becomes pregnant, the father has a choice, and he should step in. Our men need to step up and say, no, it's not just her body, her choice. I'm the father, and I want to back up my girlfriend, my wife, and this is my baby too, and I have a choice in this as well. Statistics show that 70% of women with unplanned pregnancies will keep their baby if their boyfriend or spouse says, yes, let's do it.
Wow.
It's true. That is also, you said it spends after family values. If the father supports the wife, then you have a baby and you have a family, and that's Ohana, and that's very important to Hawaii people, for sure. So one thing I just want to touch upon against is Roe got passed based on a lie. Roe was passed, one of the main parts of Roe was a baby is not recognized as a person under the U.S. Constitution. now we know it's, I mean, we've always known as believers that it's a person, right? But that is one of the chief reasons why Roe was overturned, because a baby has a right to live and live out their unique life as a person and as a citizen of the United States. And so now that we recognize a baby in the womb is recognized a person, that is one of the reasons why Roe was overturned. And I really hope people understand that, you know? I don't think people would agree with Hitler, right? Well, so it's a very similar subject.
Speaking of that, think about this bomb that I've had a lot of blast with. Remember the Lacey Peterson situation? The guy who killed his pregnant wife and threw her overboard?
Yes.
Okay, so when they finally found her, and they found her and the baby, okay, then the whole liberal argument came out and said, he needs to go up for a double murder.
Yes.
And then I said to them, well, wait a minute, double murder, why is it a double murder? You just said that it's abortion is okay because the child's not born yet. Why this? And here was the answer I was given. Well, because that was a wanted child.
Oh, boy.
And so then I went, so now we're Adolf Hitler. Value is only based on whether I give it value or not. Interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. How can you have both?
Yep.
It's true. How can you have both? How can it be a double homicide that you yet a mother can go and abort her baby? You know, so.
Well, we got to influence the influencers.
That's right. We have to keep coals on everybody's heads, you guys.
What would you guys say to the person who's not interested in voting?
Did you like being told that you couldn't go to the park? Did you like being told you could or couldn't go into these certain places? Do you like having this big cement thing in the sky that's probably never going to be used for very much? And then looking at the quality of our schools, did you like, and I just go on and all that stuff. I said, listen, the whole situation of our government, the corruption, everything we have, believe it or not, is the responsibility of the people. You know, I hear people talking about term limits. We need term limits. Yeah, that's great, and I do want term limits, but we actually have the power of term limits. It's called elections.
Amen.
So you can just show up and nip that in the bud. But so you can't make all nuha about circumstances when you had the power. So when someone says, you know, I don't know if I want to vote, and then I just say, well, then are you stoked about being told where you could or could not go? And that whole overreach, because that's the difference. To me, I've been telling a lot of people about the difference between big government and effective government. See, what we have is big government, and it's formatted this way. And big government says this: I may know more than you, so in order to protect you, I must control you. Effective government says, I may know more than you, so in order to protect you, I'm going to empower you.
Amen.
And I said, you have just allowed, hey, we need to protect kids, so let's make a law for helmets. Okay, well, it went from there all the way to we're going to shut down every business. We're going to shut because we have the power to control. So you got to vote because it's all about what you have the privilege to.
And you have to pick up the phone and call your people that you've elected, even currently. And you have to talk to them and tell them what you care about.
Yeah.
I have to say, I have to go back to Karen. You know, when you vote, when you don't vote, you're actually giving your vote up. You've already voted.
Yeah,
you've already voted.
Exactly.
So we have to get out and vote. Guys, a coconut wireless is the most powerful thing in Hawaii.
Yeah.
You tell somebody something, 2 weeks later, it's coming back to you verbatim. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And we need to let people know it's okay to talk about abortion. And when does life begin? And did you know there's 9 months of pregnancy to abortion here? Are you okay with that?
Well, and back to the voting, I think we need to inform people that there's power in your vote, that it does make a difference, because I think that's mostly people that I have talked with. They don't realize that their vote makes a difference.
Here at our church at One Love, we actually have an entire team ministry called the Cultural Impact Team. And that's their whole job, is to read every single law, every single bill, give us the sound bites, so that then we can just, hey, here's the sound bites, this is what it is, so call your rep. We don't tell them what to say, but we tell them what the subject is, so that then they can respond. So again, I think my job is to, as you said, people are busy, is to, as a shepherd, get the best information in the simplest way to the maximum amount of people, so that they feel they can do something. You know, call your senator. Gosh, what would I say? How do we do that? That's kind of scary. Hey, call this number, share these things, and here's the thing. This is what it states. If you disagree with this, then just let them know.
Yeah, you just simply tell them. And you know what? That works, you guys. They pick up the phone every single time. And they're supposed to get back to you if you email them too. So it definitely works.
Well, man, I think the thing that we need to do as people is to get our people out to vote.
Yes,
you know,
amen.
I mean, and so that's what I think this discussion is about for me as a shepherd, and you as, and I'm going to call it an activist, you know, in the role that you are sharing actively with people. Yes.
I'm telling you, prayer does work.
And then as an experienced, you know, person who this cancer has touched, and how its deception is there. I think we need to not just have our mana'o on this. That's the problem. It doesn't end with mana'o. It ends with we need to step into the voting booths and be able to express that vote. And we need to allow the people who are in office to know you're listening to the voice of the minority, not the majority. Yes. So let's get the people, because I do believe the majority of the people feel this way, but
absolutely.
If it just stays silent. So that's what I'm trying to do, is just encourage people, step up, step out. So just make sure you tell your friends, double check, are you registered? Did you see that yellow card? If you didn't see that yellow card, just do it again, and then just mail that bugger in.
Yep. Amen.
It's not real difficult.
Yeah.
Special thanks to Ann, Karen, and Waxer. You're watching Faith in Politics. We'll be right back.
I started as an intern at Call TV, and today I'm working full-time running quality control as well as editing. Being a small team, I learned everything from camera work to editing to broadcasting, with the focus on spreading the gospel, being the only local Christian TV station in Hawaii. Our vision is big. That is why I want to ask you to consider being a part of the team by supporting us. Imagine that, working together, broadcasting aloha across Hawaii. Thank you for your financial support that empowers Call TV.
Welcome back to Faith in Politics. What does demon possession, the New Age, and suicidal tendencies have to do with becoming a pastor? We'll meet Billy Crone as he shares his story face-to-face with Malala Po.
So tell me about your ministry, for those that may not know.
Well, basically, I'm a 1980s ex-headbanger, drug addict, sexually immoral, male chauvinist pig guy involved in the occult. I gave this life to Satan when I was about 16, 17 years old, and then I got involved in New Age and all kinds of rotten behavior. I was probably multiply possessed, as I had asked these entities to come inside me and take power. To show you his character, Jesus said, John chapter 8, he's a liar and he's a father of lies and he's a murderer and he's been one from the beginning. And that's who he was, because within 3 months of that, I tried to kill myself twice, with OD with pills. And then I actually shot myself once in the chest with a .22 rifle. And to be honest with you, I didn't want to die. I just wanted people to know that I was dying on the inside. I had no answers for life. Nobody was telling me about Jesus that I recall, and I'm just flailing. So I tried the American dream, you get a job, get an education, degrees and money and all this stuff and relationships, and tried all that stuff. But you know what? It doesn't fill that hole in your heart, does it? And so then I had a buddy, unfortunately, who turned me on to the Satanic Bible. That got even worse. I had another coworker that turned me on to New Age, and that's, of course, pick any religion on the planet. You get to be God. I'll take a little bit of Hinduism, Buddhism, shamanism, witchcraft, self-help, maybe even a little Christianity, but nothing convicting, just that, the golden rule or something like that. I hated Christians. I thought Christians were a bunch of dumb, duped idiots that had to have a book tell you what to do. I was much more intellectually superior than that. I went to my bedroom. I didn't see it coming, nothing. There was no plan on becoming a Christian that day whatsoever. But that day I walked in the door, and then bang, the demonic activity happened again. They were literally driving me insane. I was going out of my mind. And it scared me so bad this time that I ran to my bedroom. I was 25. I dropped on my knees all by myself, and I said, God, if you want this life, you can have it. I spent the last 25 years messing up. Then I knew enough from two Christians who dared to witness to me, and I was mean and nasty to them, and that I had to call upon the name of Jesus Christ. So I followed that up with, Jesus Christ, would you please forgive me and save me? And bang, instantly, man, it's like the weight of the world was off my shoulder. I don't know if that was the sensation of being forgiven of sin and or demons leave me, whatever. The first couple of days, the sky was bluer, the grass was greener, and I didn't know anything. I wasn't raised in the church. I found a Bible, started reading it, went to church services, figured that's what you're supposed to do as a Christian, 2 weeks old in the Lord by myself, and I closed the Bible at night, and after reading, I said, God, I want to know more. Next day, I woke up with the idea, go to Bible college on your brain, and I'm like, what? Long story short, 8 weeks after I'm saved, brand spanking new Christian, man, I'm in Bible college and then later seminary for the next 7 years nonstop.
Yeah, we just fast forward most of your life to today and times of today as it relates to the church, within the church. And I think you had a sermon on the enemy within the church.
Oh, yeah, still working on that one.
So unpack that for us.
The reason why the church is in such a state of affairs as it is, i.e. messed up, and we're sitting there scratching our heads as born-again Christians going like, how could that church do that? Or how could that pastor support that? That's completely unbiblical. How could this denomination accept this and go the way of the world and become woke and all this stuff? It's seminaries, Bible colleges, church denominations all across the board, and yes, churches. They are now being run by non-Christians, right? And that's why we're in the mess we're in. That's why we're scratching our heads. And we need to wake up to that as Christians. They have infiltrated the church for the last, I'd say, at least a good 30 years, right? And we've lowered the standard of God because we begin to lust after numbers instead of spiritual growth, which is what we're supposed to be about. And it's allowed the floodgates of these fakers to come in. Well, they didn't just stay in the pews. Now they're behind the pulpits. They're now in charge of seminaries and Bible college. And we got them on tape. This is not a conspiracy theory. 70% of people who claim to be born-again Christians say that Jesus Christ is not the only way to heaven. I got a problem with that. And bigger than that, the Bible's got a problem with that. How can you be a born-again Christian and say Jesus is not the only way? I don't think you can. And so, but these are people who claim to be born-again Christians, i.e. they're in the church. Just that one stat alone, if you played across the board, that means 70% of people going to church services aren't saved. That's what's happened to the church.
How do you see prophecy play into maybe how we vote or what the world is today when it comes to the church? What does that look like?
Prophecy has a way of saying, listen, time is short. So let's get out there and make a difference, right? And part of that difference is engaging the culture, right? You can't engage the culture if you hide out in the hills. You can't engage the culture if you're apathetic and say, what's the use? No, I don't see that anywhere in the scripture. Right? You're supposed to engage the culture. 3 things, I'll bring this up. Number 1, we're supposed to be the salt and the light, right, of the world. We know that as Christians. Well, how are you going to do that with an apathetic attitude? It ain't going to make no difference. It doesn't matter. You're supposed to obey Christ. That's what he said to do. Get out there and do it. To be that preservative and to shine the light of Christ and the gospel of Christ in this dark and dying world. Who cares what other people are doing, right? Number 3, I love to bring this one up, and you mentioned prophecy. The scripture specifically says in 2 Thessalonians 2 that as we see the rise of the Antichrist kingdom, it's not going to happen until the beginning of the 7-year tribulation, and we're out here prior to that. But it says there that in the meantime, we're the restraining influence. It's the Greek word restrain, kateko, and it means to hold back the course or hindrance thereof. And so it specifically is talking about the rise of the Antichrist kingdom. It's not here yet. But we see the machinery being put in place, right? All around us. Right. And so God gives us another label specifically as we await the rapture. That could happen at any moment. It's getting close. Yes, we're to be the salt. Yes, we're to be the light. But listen, we're supposed to be the restrainers. We're supposed to listen, not comply. We're to restrain against this. So here's my point. How can you restrain against the rise of this wicked Antichrist kingdom if you're hiding out in the hills or if you're apathetic and you don't do nothing? We're supposed to occupy until he comes. We're supposed to make a difference. We're supposed to restrain against this, right? Don't compromise. Don't comply. You need to speak up, speak out with the freedoms that we currently have. Be that salt, be that light, be that restrainer. I didn't make it up. That's God's label for us, the church. And that third one, the restrainer, is specifically as we await the rapture. We just got to get back to the Bible.
Pastor Billy Crone, face-to-face with Malala Po. Watch the entire interview available on the Call TV app. Are you a local resident that's concerned about some of the bills that are being run through our local government? You're not alone. Leo Rodas catches up with Carol Kamai and her journey to do something about it.
Aloha kako, Leo Rodas reporting from the Hawaii State Capitol for Faith in Politics. Today I'm joined by Carol Kamai from One Impact Hawaii. Carol, thank you so much for joining me here today.
Thank you.
I just wanted to ask you if you wouldn't mind, please sharing with us a little bit about who you are and what One Impact Hawaii does.
So what we are is a group of concerned citizens that got together and decided we were not going to be put in a position that we didn't know what was happening with the laws, with legislation, and not being able to react. We were able to mobilize each other so that we could pray about what was happening, so that we could tell individuals that they need to send out templates to let the lawmakers know that we disagreed with the direction that they were taking, and again, just actively be involved. So that's what happened.
Now, let me ask you, was there one particular bill or something in specific that encouraged this?
Right, there was actually 3. There was a physician-assisted suicide. There was the other bill that was about the Board of Education, where they wanted to criminalize parents, so they wanted to fine them if they were, say, overly or aggressively active in conversations. Yes. And the other was the very aggressive sex ed bill that was being pushed through.
And now this is a grassroots movement. What does that mean for the people of Hawaii?
Well, it's grassroots in the fact that it was again, a handful of us that were concerned citizens, and then we're available to others as far as either being a resource for them or them being a resource for us. So we're open to other churches, we're open to like-minded individuals, believers. We just really want to make a difference for our voters.
How would you say you're achieving this vision?
Okay, well, we've gone out and we've spoken to many different locations and people, and we're collecting emails, and we're active in our in different churches as far as voter registration and meet and greets, and we're just really getting out there and getting connected. That's probably the biggest thing. Once we get connected, we explain who we are, what we do, and we can engage in their excitement and then try to work in a similar team for their church or their group.
I'm sure that you've seen, perhaps citizens, right, who are concerned with the political landscape today, sort of this idea of like a citizen politician. What would you say as a word of encouragement to perhaps the younger generation, or again, someone who is interested as a citizen, who is interested in politics? What would you say to encourage that person?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be that I'm stepping forward only because I'm interested in politics. They should just be interested in their community, their love for one another, and how it ties to the government, and how that these individuals work for us, and that we're guided by our moral compass to be involved. I mean, the Lord wants us to be involved, and so that's what we want to do. We want to have those people keep that in mind, and with that, reach out to others. Don't be afraid to talk to other people, because you'd really be surprised how you can, again, network and just get connected by just speaking to someone. Because that's what happened on that day that we all met. Right. We were all independently speaking. We all knew each other. We weren't talking to each other, but all of a sudden we got pulled together, and we were on this long table. There was about 12 of us, and we just made it happen as far as those actual bills. Right. So that's what will do it.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me today to talk about this very, very important issues. For Faith in Politics, I'm Leo Rodas, reporting from the Hawaii State Capitol.
Well, thanks for watching Faith in Politics. We'll continue to bring a voice to the faith community here in Hawaii through interviews and commentary. This program exists because of viewers like you. And from all of us here at Faith in Politics, we want to remind you that government belongs to you. Register and vote to make your voice heard. If you believe the content we are providing is important, well, please consider partnering with us. And be sure to share it with your friends and family. And for those who are watching on social platforms such as Rumble or YouTube, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Don't miss next week's episode as we continue to bring you roundtable discussions on the top issues we face leading up to the elections this year. I'm Pete Klaproth. Until next time, aloha.